Good day, grade 10 learners. For this lesson, you're going to learn the voices of the verb, the passive and the active voices. The learning competency that you are expected to master is identifying key structural elements and language features of an argumentative text. So last February, you have learned what an argumentative text is and what are the key structural elements. So as what I've said before, that an argumentative text has three parts: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So for the exposition, this is also known as your thesis statement. This is where you state your position for your argument, and this is usually found in the introduction part. You also have here the arguments, which are found in the body, and this includes your backup, your reasons, your justification for your stand or your position. And of course, the third part is the restatement, or also known as your conclusion. So this is where you restate your position. In the previous weeks, you also have learned some of the language features of an argumentative text. So you have already learned the modal verbs. So if you can remember, modal verbs include will, would, can, could, shall, should, might, may. Okay. You also have learned the conjunctions or the connectives. So these are the words that are used to connect phrases, words, or your thoughts. In the succeeding weeks, you will also learn the declarative statements and the rhetorical questions. But for this lesson, you will learn the voices of the verb. As what I've mentioned, these are the active and the passive voices. Previously, you learned the different kinds of connectors and conjunctions. In this lesson, you will be learning how to change voices from passive to active voice and vice versa for better argument text effect. But before learning the voices of the verb, I want you to be familiar with the following. It's very important that you can identify the subject in the sentence. And what do you mean by the subject of the sentence? The subject of the sentence is what is being talked about in the sentence. Okay, we have here the example sentence. The girl wore a leather apron. So if you can you recognize the subject of the sentence? Who is being talked about in the sentence? Okay, it's the girl. The girl is the one being talked about in the sentence, so it's the subject of the sentence. The second example. The diligent boy was called to receive his award. So who are we talking about here? The boy. So the boy here is your subject. Okay, let's go to the object. What is the object of the sentence? The object of the sentence is the one that receives the action. It usually answers the question what or whom after the verb. Okay, example sentence. Atom left his bag on the table. Atom left what? His bag. So his bag is your object of the sentence. It answers the question what after the verb left. The teacher called me to recite. The teacher called whom? Me. So me is the object of the sentence. So as what I've said, your object answers the question what or who after the verb. Of this, only sentences with direct objects can be changed from active to passive. So I have here example sentences with and without objects or direct objects. Okay, for the first column, sentences with object. First sentence, I threw the ball outside the window. So try to ask this question. I threw what? The ball. So the ball answers the question what. So this is your direct object. So sentence number 2. The children ate the whole box of pizza on the table. So ask again this question. The children ate what? The answer is the whole box of pizza. So the whole box of pizza is your direct object. Okay, next sentence is the organization helps the abandoned children. The organization helps whom? Answer is the abandoned children. So the abandoned children is your direct object. So as what I've mentioned earlier, that direct object answers the question what or whom after the verb. Okay, try to compare it to the sentences in the second column. First sentence, Angela Troy dances gracefully. Okay, try to ask a question that you had in the first column. Angela Troy dances what? Does gracefully answer the question what? It answers the question how. So in this sentence, there is no direct object after the verb. So gracefully is an adverb that answers the question how. Okay, second sentence, the thief ran in the forest. Try to ask again the question. The thief ran what? Does in the forest answer the question what? No, it answers the question where. So in this sentence, there is no direct object after the verb. The verb is followed by a prepositional phrase in the forest that answers the question where. So as you can see, the difference between sentences with object and without an object. So I want you also to be familiar with the be verbs. Be verbs are also considered as helping verbs. So be verbs have the following forms: am, is, are, was, were, be, been, and being. So action verbs also have different forms. So the form of the verb changes as how it is used in the sentence. Okay, for example, we have here the base form of the verb walk. So for the progressive, you just add ing. So it becomes walking. For the simple past and past participle, you simply add ed. So it becomes walked. Walk, walking, walked, walked. So second example, jump. Progressive form is jumping. For the simple past and past participle, you simply add again ed. So you have here jumped and jumped. So the verbs that you just add ed to form the simple past and past participle are considered as regular verbs. As you notice, the spelling did not change. You just simply add ed to form the simple past and the past participle. So other examples are wash, dance, work, so paint. So these verbs are considered as regular verbs. So how about verbs that changes the spelling to form the simple past and past participle? So these verbs are considered as irregular verbs. Again, they are called irregular verbs. Okay, we have here the first example. Think. The progressive form is thinking. Simple past is thought. Past participle is thought. So you did not add ed to form the simple past and past participle. So you just simply change the spelling of the verb. Again, another example is live. Progressive form is living. Simple past is left. Past participle is left. But there are also other irregular verbs that changes the spelling in the simple past and in the past participle. Okay, we have here the verb throw. Progressive form is throwing. Simple past is threw. Past participle is thrown. Same with the verb fly. Flying, flew, flown. Okay, so what's the difference between the simple past and past participle form of the verb? So simple past tense can be used as a verb, while the past participle cannot be used as a verb if there is no helping verb before it. It always needs a helping verb to be able to use it as a verb in the sentence. Okay, so why are we studying this one? Why do you need to be familiar with the be verbs and the different forms of the verb, especially the past participle, because they play a very important role in changing sentences from active to passive or vice versa. Verbs and voice. Voice is the form a verb takes to indicate whether the subject of the verb performs or receives the action. So there are two types of voice, the active voice and the passive voice. So for the active voice, the subject does the action, or the subject is the one doing the action. The active voice is less wordy and straight to the point. So these examples show that the subject is doing the verb's action. Example, the dog jumped onto the boy. The dog is the subject and is the one doing the action jumping. Second example, Christy will give a book report to the class. Christy is our subject and is the one doing the action of giving. So third example, the computer ate my paper. The subject is a computer and is the one doing the action eating. So the computer ate my paper. For the passive voice, the receiver or the object becomes the subject of the sentence. The doer of the action may or may not be stated in the sentence. If the doer of the action is stated, it becomes the object of the preposition by. The verb is made up of a be verb and a past participle. That's why I asked you to be familiar with the kinds of the be verbs and the past participle, because they play a major role in the passive voice. Okay, we have here the first example of a sentence. The criminal was caught by the policeman. Who did the action of catching? Sino ang nagdakop? Ang criminal ang nagdakop sa police o ang police ang nagdakop sa criminal? So the doer of the action is the policeman. As you can notice, the policeman, the doer of the action, becomes the object of the preposition by. Who received the action? Sino ang gindakop? Who was caught? It was the criminal. So the receiver of the action becomes the subject of the sentence, and the doer of the action becomes the object of the preposition. So take note of the verb form, be verb plus past participle. Was is the be verb and caught is the past participle of catch. Okay, second sentence. The problem will be discussed by the members of the committee. Who will discuss? Who will do the action of discussing? Is it the problem ang madiscuss or the members of the committee? So the doer of the action is the members of the committee. The members will discuss the what? The problem. So the problem is the receiver or the object of the sentence. So ano ang i-discuss nila? So the receiver of the action is the subject of the sentence. The verb form again is be verb plus past participle. Will be is your be verb. Discussed is your past participle. Okay, compare sentences in active and passive voice. So remember this one. In the active voice, the doer of the action is the subject of the sentence, while in the passive voice, the receiver of the action is the subject of the sentence. Okay, take a look at the first example here. Akira sings the light flawlessly. Subject of the sentence is Akira and is also the doer of the action. The verb is sings. So you ask again this question, Akira sings what? The light. So the light is your object. So for the passive, our receiver, the light, will become the subject. So as what I've mentioned earlier, that in the passive voice, the verb form is be verb plus past participle. So you have here the be verb is plus the past participle of sing, which is sung. So our doer becomes the object of the preposition by Akira flawlessly. The light is sung by Akira flawlessly. That's in the passive voice. So ang flawlessly is just an adverb of manner. Okay, so for the second sentence, Uncle Daniel will drive the new car. Uncle Daniel is the subject and the doer of the action. What is our verb? Will drive. will drive what? The new car. So the new car is the receiver or the object of the subject, of the sentence rather. So for the passive voice, it will become the subject. The new car will be driven by Uncle Daniel. As you notice, we added the be verb be to the modal will. And the past participle of the verb drive is driven. Our doer becomes the object of the preposition by. So the new car will be driven by Uncle Daniel. So for the third sentence, they have watched the movie several times. The subject or the doer of the action is they. The verb is have watched. They have watched what? The movie. So the movie is the receiver of the action or the object of the sentence. So this will become again the subject in the passive voice. The movie has been watched by them several times. If you notice, we added the be verb been to the helping verb has, and we used the past participle watched. So you might be asking, you might be wondering, why nga has diri sa passive voice while have diri sa active voice? Kaya sa active voice, the subject is in the plural form they. While for the passive voice, the subject movie is singular and has is used for the third person singular. While ang have nga ni is used for the plural and the first and the second person singular. Okay, for the fourth sentence, someone stole my wallet yesterday. The doer or the subject is someone. The verb is stole. What do you mean by stole? It's steal, past tense of steal. Someone stole what? My wallet. So my wallet is the receiver of the action or the object of the sentence. So it will become the subject in the passive voice. My wallet was stolen by someone. But take note again of the verb form in the passive voice. We have the be verb was and the past participle of steal or stole, which is stolen. So as you notice, I put by someone inside the parentheses because if you think the doer of the action is not really important in the sentence, then you might prefer not to state it. You can just say, my wallet was stolen yesterday. But if you think that it's important, then you can still include that in the sentence. You can say, my wallet was stolen by someone yesterday. So as what I mentioned earlier or a while ago, that if you think that the speaker is not important or the doer of the action is not important, you may or you may not state that in the sentence. You might be wondering how the be verb and the past participle is formed in the passive voice. So pag gusto na lang bilain siya kung ano gamiton, ma-is kita, ma-was kita, ma-will kita, will be kita, or ma-has been kita, no? So you have to be familiar with the verb form. Okay, for example, in the active voice, the verb is write. The students write an essay every week. This is in the simple present tense. So you form the passive by having is or are plus past participle. An essay is written by students every week. Kay present kita in the active voice, then the passive voice is or are plus past participle. Nga is or are, it depends if the subject is singular or plural. We use the be verb is for the third person singular and are for the plural. Okay, another example here in the simple present writes may S. May S ang aton nga verb. Mickey writes poems. It's because Mickey is singular, that's why ang verb the has an S. For the passive, again, it's either is or are plus past participle. Poems are written by Mickey. We use the be verb are here because poems is in the plural form. Okay. For the third example, the past tense, the verb is wrote, which is in the past if the event happened in the past. A student wrote that essay last year. So, how do we form the passive kung past tense ang aton nga verb in the active? It's either the be verb was or were plus past participle for the past tense. So, kung present ang active ta, do not use was or were plus past participle. We only use this if the verb in the active is in the past. That essay was written by a student last year. So, it happened in the past na. For the fourth example, will write. This is in the future tense. Will write. The students will write an essay next week. So as what I've mentioned in the lesson in modal, so modal is always followed by a base form of the verb. So when you say base form, wala sang S, wala sang ing, wala sang ed, it's not in the past. It's just in the base form. The students will write an essay next week. The students will write what? An essay is your object. So how do we form the passive voice if there is a modal will? So it is formed by having will plus the be verb be plus the past participle. An essay will be written by the students next week. Okay, for the active voice, is writing. May ara kita be verb plus ing. A student is writing an essay, and this is used to indicate that an action is happening right now. I am talking right now. You are listening right now. So we have a be verb plus past participle. A student is writing an essay. A student is writing what? An essay is your object. So how do we form the passive of this be verb plus ing? We have here is or are plus being plus past participle. So we have here an essay is being written by a student. So is being written by a student. How about if we have a helping verb has or have plus past participle? We have here an example. The student has written several poems. A student has written what? Several poems. So several poems is your direct object. So how do we form the passive voice? We have here has or have plus been plus past participle. Several poems have been written by that student. You might be wondering again, nga nag-have kita diri sa passive kay has man ang gingamit natong sa active. It's because several poems is plural, so we use have. While sa active, kaya ang student is singular, that's why we use has. Okay. For the last example, had plus past participle written. The student had written several poems before he graduated from high school. Okay. For the passive,
your phone's mobile data is turned off, so I can't help you.
For the passive, it's formed by having had plus been plus past participle. So we have here several poems had been written by that student before he graduated from high school. O you might be confused nga, may had plus past participle man ni. Paano ta mabalaan if it's active or passive? But remember, ang passive voice always has a be verb plus past participle. Ang had is not a be verb. That's why if we have had or has or have plus past participle, sa active voice na siya matupa. For activity 1, identify whether the sentence is active or passive. So it's just very easy to recognize this. Kaya sa active gani, the subject is the doer of the action. Sa passive naman the receiver of the action is the subject of the sentence. And the verb is formed by having a be verb plus past participle. And the doer of the action becomes the object of the preposition by. Okay, ang example is sentence number 1. I ate a piece of chocolate cake. The subject is I. Sino ang nag-obra sa action nga ate? Or ang eating nga ni? Is it I or the piece of chocolate cake? So the doer of the action is I. I ate what? a piece of chocolate cake. So this sentence is in active voice. Okay, for number 2, the chicken was cooked by Uncle Dale. Who did the action? Sino ang nag-cook? Was it the chicken or si Uncle Dale? Okay, it was. The doer of the action is Uncle Dale, which becomes the object of the preposition by. So look at the verb form. We have here the be verb was plus the past participle cooked. So this sentence is in the passive voice. So I want you to answer numbers 3 to 10. For activity 2, fill in the blanks with the appropriate active and passive verb forms. So please observe the subject-verb agreement. If the subject is singular, so the verbs that the helping verbs usually used there is was, is, has, na. If the subject is plural, the helping verbs that usually use are, were, have. Ang mga modals like will, mga helping verb na had, they can be used either for singular or for plural. For activity 3A, change the following sentences from active to passive. Observe the subject-verb agreement and the correct verb form according to tense. For activity 3B, change the following sentences from passive to active voice. So if you are confused whether what helping verb or be verb you are going to use, you go back to the table that I have shown you earlier, how we transform the verb right, kung present tense siya, kung past tense siya, kung may modal will siya, or if it has a helping verb has, how do we change them from active to passive. So you go back to that table for reference. So do not forget to put a period at the end of your sentences.